we get the ability, we were given the ability to choose.
Right. I know. Think about that. So many people in the world, right? They are where they are because someone chose for them. They're either not in their free will or they're just in a place they can't even choose vocationally what they do. And here we are getting to deal with business owners. I think we've worked in 29 states and 9 countries, right? We get to choose that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that choice sometimes is a difficult one because the choice is to say to a prospective client, we should probably refer you to a partner that's better equipped to serve you, rather than trying to put their square peg into our round hole or vice versa. I think of the round peg going in the square hole, it'll fit, but there's always like room around the edges that didn't get filled, right? So we want that right fit with our clients. We can use easy criteria. If they're too small in terms of their capacity to hire us. But then we have a heart to serve, and that makes it difficult. Sometimes we put too much effort into going after a relationship that we really want to serve, but it's not the right fit. What do you do with that?
I pray about that too. A couple of things come to mind. That very instance happened this morning. When we were in the office, Brian and I meeting with someone when you walked in.
Yeah.
And you didn't really overhear the meeting, but Brian and I, after we're debriefing, we're like, what do we do? We know we can help. And we know they need what we do. Now, it wouldn't have to be us, but they don't know anybody else to go to. And Brian and I were kind of scratching our heads where we don't even know anybody else we could send them to. So here's the founders. They built this organization. It's probably, I think it started in 96. So let's say that's 30
years.
Yeah, going on 30 years, right? Both PhDs, very smart, very principled, a good board that they formed around, but they're not of the scale yet where we could really engage. So I'm not sitting here with the answer,
right?
But asking the question holistically, what's the best thing for the ecosystem, the marketplace, our brand, our partners, our referral partners, the client, our team, trying to look at that. And somewhat what Brian and I came to, but we haven't yet made a decision. So this is real time, is there is what I would say is vocation and there's avocation. And if you wanted to take something outside being part of the OneAccord team, because you know you can serve, people have every right to do that, but not to try and mix it up as a client. So then within that, you hand it to someone else. Do you do it yourself? It's like a tithe in a way for those that would understand the concept of there's some aspect or percent or amount of the funds we have available that we use for other resources, right? For charitable causes. And so if we thought of our time in that context, maybe that's a way to do it. But more often than not, I've found those organizations that don't have the capacity, it ends up being an exercise in frustration for both parties because you're trying to run faster than they have the ability to go, right? You're having to educate in so many aspects of running what a business is that you're having to hold back because they don't have the capacity to integrate what it is you're talking about. Ultimately, that probably doesn't serve them.
Right. It's counterproductive on both sides because we might go in with a heart to serve. They don't have the resource, not just dollars, but time and energy and personnel.
Right.
We end up moving big needles and or moving the needle a lot, and you need a lot of resource to get there. So, the size of the organization is one qualification. We might have a $30 million company that's unprofitable though. So they're big enough, but their bottom line is not big enough. So the old school BANT qualification, right? Budget is a big consideration. I mean, we've talked about, for some owners, investing in OneAccord is the difference between going to Lake Como or Lake Chelan, right?
Yeah. or Lake Chelan and the Puyallup Fair. I mean,
Yeah.
it really gets down to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I was thinking was I was reflecting on our core values, right? Which are absolute truth, absolute compassion, and service. Now, absolute, in my view, is aspirational. In other words, we're pressing towards that. I don't think in literal sense we can live into always truth because we have too much self-centered nature. And that's part of the reason, in my view, to work with a OneAccord or an organization versus an individual, because I'm less likely to go a bit off the rails if I have more accountability or relationships around me. I think we're meant to operate as parts of a body where we each are in our own strength. The absolute is, while being aspirational, is something that we can help each other grow in and likely be more likely to stay on that course. But let's say truth, compassion, and service, right? I'll start with compassion because I think that's the word that's a bit harder to sometimes comprehend. What does that actually mean in a business sense? And it's often, I think, delivering truth in the way it could be received. You're speaking truth so that in sometimes a measured fashion, so that person can actually receive what that is that they need to hear. Truth is the full data set, right? So in our client success plan, in that process of analysis and looking at all the data and saying, well, what is it that we're going to deliver to this organization in regards to how they can grow both tactically and strategically? And if you think about engagements, kind of ideally is that report is going to give you things that you could initially engage in tactically, which will generate upside that can pay for the big move of the needle, right? So you can get incremental needle moves through tactically improving, but strategic gain is going to take more time, more resource, including more dollars, right? So if you can begin on the tactical to move the needle, create margin from that, that allows you to reinvest back in. But going back to, how do you qualify that we're working with the right kind of company? Part of that is, does the person have ears to hear? Is there a willingness to actually receive what that truth is, or the truths, even when delivered in a fashion that is compassionate?
Yeah.
Sometimes when someone's newer with the team, I found them, ask the question before they go out and do a client success plan, well, what if we can't find 4 or 5 things that they really need to work on? And my experience is trying to get it down to 4 or 5 is the hard thing.
Yeah.
Because there's probably 20, but you can't sit with an owner and say, here's 20 things you need to change. They can barely receive 5, right? So you try and narrow this down, 2 or 3 tactically, 2 or 3 strategically. And asking yourself in that process, are they actually receiving this? Or do you just see them either wilt or you're kind of like, are you there?
There is a very well recognized national brand that is headquartered locally. And through our connections in the company, we could be talking to the CEO, owner of the business.
Okay.
But what I know in the marketplace is this company has turned over their CFO, I think now 4 times in the last 10 years.
Kind of telling, right?
And there's a reputation kind of around this organization. They're of the right size. Their top line is right. Their bottom line, they could afford us. There are visible challenges, like they're known in the marketplace. Ownership, leadership is known not to have those ears to hear.
Come on, give me a crack at it. I want to go in and talk to him. Say for the love of God, for the good of your people.
Yeah, and that. So I mean, that's
But
such
you're
a
right. Sometimes you just know.
Well, and I think for our folks, right, for our principals in OneAccord, for the men and women that are doing the business development, the outreach, like some want to have a crack at it. I've seen deals on our pipeline for a very long time. And I'm asking, like, why are we still pursuing this? Like, we want it more than they do.
I think that's a big, that shows a good heart and a good intent.
It's values aligned. We have people that tell the truth with compassion that want to serve.
Right.
And maybe stay in it. One of our managing principals will say, you can't manufacture paint. And there has to be in that BANT the timing has to be right. The need has to be there, but it also has to be the right season, which is why I think you advocate and we are in alignment on this, that we leave the prospective clients on our pipeline forever, because we're just waiting for the season. I always love talking to you. And I love how values of truth, compassion, and service show up in every conversation we have, whether it's the sales conversation, the qualifying conversation, the delivery conversation, the network partner conversation. It always comes back to our values. Building value built on values. Love it, man.